Hello, this is Elsa. And right now I'm going to move to speaker view so you can see me fully. So this is Elsa, and I'm coming to you with my thoughts starting from I have a dream. And then the next thing is, where do we go from there? And I say that because it's much easier to have a dream than to go somewhere from there. And I want to talk about that quite a bit. But first, I want to talk about two other things. I already sent out a message that I want to talk about the butterfly I found in my basement in January, because it relates to having a dream. And I want to talk about the courageous personality. So, okay, that butterfly. This is about a dozen years ago. It's January. It's minus 15. I go down to the basement. I'm living in the country. I have an old wood furnace, and I go regularly to throw wood in the furnace. Nothing much, except this time I see this small square, about an inch square, very shiny, glossy. It's like nothing in the basement. I look around everywhere. It's like dusty. There's wood. I don't touch it. I throw wood in the fire. I have no idea what it is. It's pretty weird, but it doesn't look dangerous. So I go upstairs, come down a few hours later, and the little black thing is still there, except it's not there. It's moved a couple of feet. I still don't touch it, but I realize I'm dealing with something alive. Anyhow, I put wood in the fire, and the little thing opens wings. What I have is a living butterfly in my basement in January. My first impulse is, how do I take care of it? Because now that I know it's a butterfly, my caretaker kicks in, because I go, oh my God, that poor butterfly, there's no water around, it's a basement. There's no food around except for wood, and I'm sure it doesn't eat like logs meant to be burned. So I go up to the kitchen, I shred some lettuce, I sprinkle it with water, I put a tiny little, water with a 16th of an inch depth in a little tiny something, and I put it on a tray and I carry it down close to the butterfly. And I leave a light on. In fact, I bring a little light close by for the butterfly. Within a day, I decide, what am I doing leaving this butterfly in the basement? Butterflies are meant to be outdoors. And so I get a box and I put a lid on it because I have cats, and I carried up to my study. And in this time, I'd already gone online. I'd found out what do butterflies eat. And from what I learned online, I almost killed the butterfly, because all the sites gave me the same recipe, which I followed, which is great for killing butterflies because it needs 10 times as much water, 40 drops of water, not 4 with this. And so when I came back to the butterfly, it had its poor little feet stuck in the stuff I'd made for it. So wrong recipe. But anyway, what you can see is I cared about it. It was just natural to care about it. By the way, even though it was alive in January, something or other had damaged one wing. Maybe its cocoon was squished, or I don't know what. One wing was beautiful, and the other wing had a bit of a crimp, so it could fly a little, but not completely. I contacted a friend whose daughter was a school teacher and who'd had butterflies that she raised with her class. And so I got lots of recipes. I wouldn't have gone out for myself because I had groceries for a week. But when you have a brand new butterfly, I drove 17 kilometers to the nearest town, and I got watermelon and cantaloupe. And in other words, I really cared about this butterfly. It lived for 21 days. On the last day, I was going to the city. It was 8 o'clock at night. And I was going, oh my God, I had a warm bed in the city. Do I drive to the country? And I decided I'm driving to the country. I got home around 10:30. The butterfly was alive. And I looked at it and made sure it was okay. I went to my bedroom, and the next morning it was dead. And I was so glad I'd been out there, and I have no idea, what can butterflies feel? Can they feel if a human cares? Like, can they resonate with our feelings? It's such a tiny creature. It's really a bug with beautiful wings. But the story is about when you care about something, your caring kicks in. And that's what kicked in. And my caring has kicked in if it's about the pandemic, if it's about climate hysteria, if it's about anything. And so I took a photo of the butterfly, and you will all, if you put your email address in the chat, I'll collect them all and you will all get a high quality photograph. But I'm not saying it's a great photograph. I took it, and I have this photograph in my living room, in my study, in my bedroom. Why? Because it means something to me. It's something I cared about and took care of to the best of my ability. And I also do think it's pretty beautiful. I like the colors. So here it is, this version, this print. And you can see there's the butterfly with its one absolutely beautiful wing. And back there is its smaller wing, which was damaged. And there's cantaloupe over here and watermelon. And there's a geranium with color, because I was told that butterflies like color. So anyway, that's a story about caring, which I have found is an absolutely massive motivation in my life, and probably a motivation in all of yours. And if I cared to give you the interviews, that's also caring. I cared for the people I interviewed. I cared for you. And I think that, in fact, is one of our most vital characteristics. And I'm going to mention a book I came across, Political Ponerology, and it's about the study of evil in politics. And apparently between 3 and 6% of the population has no empathy. It's very easy for them to do evil. It's very easy for them to manipulate. And they lack this characteristic that we have. And I'm sure if you are here, you have empathy. And then before I go on to talk about what I wanted to talk about, I am going to, which is I Have a Dream, which is the courageous personality. This is something I came across yesterday. I was reading a piece on Julian Assange and his longtime friend who has just died, Daniel Ellsberg. Somebody looked at Daniel, who was identified by Henry Kissinger as the most dangerous man on the planet because he dared to tell the truth. And this person, whose name I don't remember at the moment, I remember her given name, Diane. Anyhow, she thought of her friend, and she saw that he was one of the group that she identified as courageous personality. People who just have moral courage. They care about justice and fairness, and it's just right and natural for them to speak out. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. And my thought is that it isn't 5% where that's the natural thing. My thought is that everyone who's not part of the ponerology people, meaning no empathy, would naturally be part of one of the courageous people. But often we may have something in our lives that stop us, scare us in childhood, or make us feel incompetent, or in some way or other, or not trust ourselves, or get ridiculed and shrink from ridicule. So my sense is different from this person. And with that, by the way, I'm sure not the only one. There's one of those dead old white men who lived 2,500 years ago, Aristotle, whom I'm agreeing with, or who agrees with me, because his thought was not that we're born with the personality, but that we choose, that we make choices, that if we choose to be virtuous, that means we make choices that over and over again, we make virtuous choices. So 1,000 times over, we make choices. So we don't become virtuous all of a sudden. But over and over and over again, we take thousands of tiny decisions. And I will say that ties right in with I have a dream. Because I have a dream isn't something about, oh, presto, I am a fairy godmother. Bingo, dream. Instead, if you have a dream, the next thing is, for me anyway, what can I possibly do? And I will say my big dream is much bigger than a truth summit. It's the world as I believe it should be. And it's a very simple dream. It's the world as a garden and us as caretakers, gardeners. And it's a dream that sometimes brings me to tears because we are so far from it, and yet it feels so right. And so anyway, heading for the world as a garden, it's just like impossible. What direction, left, right, up, down. But taking smaller steps, that is possible. And on April 1st, April Fools, somebody was talking about somebody who did a summit and going about, oh, it was so wrong for her. She did an interview and she burst out crying. She knew it was terrible, but she'd already been started. And listening to it, I went, it was wrong for that person. But in fact, I did 2 summits, and they were just audio summits then, 2012 and 14. And I loved it. And I had quite an audience. So it kind of sunk in that this might be right. And when I woke up on April 2nd, and that so happens to be the day before my father's birthday when he was alive, April 3rd. So between April Fools and my father's birthday, I woke up with the idea, I will do a truth summit. And there are 2 of me. And I think, by the way, there are many of all of us. And so I had my enthusiastic child self, yes, 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 go ahead. And then there was my adult self, who had more than one response. One response was, this is going to be an amazing amount of work. And the other adult response is, this is something I can do. I am able to take this on. I can't turn the world into a garden. I mean, like, where do I start? But I can do a truth summit. And that is heading in the right direction. So my adult self was totally for this. And I'll say my adult self has worked damn hard from April 2nd to bring it all together. And so with that, I come to, what does one do when we have a dream? I remember that it took me much longer from 2006 till 2012 to go from, I have a dream that something wrong is going on around Islam. And I don't know where you all are around Islam. I know there's dangerous stuff in the ideology. So I'll just say that. I'm not trying to make a point here now or anything. Just that at the time, I was such an outsider. It took me 6 years to go from feeling there's something wrong going on to doing a truth summit, interviewing people the same kind of way. I was alone. I didn't have like-minded friends. I didn't know what I could do. I didn't know a lot of the best sources. I really felt it's so utterly humongous, and what can I do? I didn't have a community. I didn't have connections. I felt blocked and stuck and frustrated. So anyhow, with this Truth Summit, one of the things that I was doing was, I hope that gets you to having a lot more steps. And that's going to bring me to more stuff, because I'd not gone very far with the Truth Summit. Then I decided I had another dream. And in fact, it's my experience that when I take steps to one dream, I very quickly come to other dreams. So the other dream I came to was a truth tellers club or a truth tellers community, something where we can get together. And that's so that if there are other people in any kind of position like I was, not sure where to go, what to do, that this could be something that would get them to the next step, and from the next step to the next step, and that they could have community and connection, and most that they could have next steps. I think that that was the biggest thing. I think I felt stuck on one step from 2006 to about 2011. I mean, I was learning, but I must say I felt so stuck. And so what I've done also is, by the way, if anyone wants to purchase the entire set, it's all there for you at what I think is an really good, very affordable amount if you have that money. But I mean, like, if you do, it's really great. But what I decided is I'm going to throw in a month free in the membership site. Why? Because many of you, like, you were able to test the Truth Summit before you listened to more, and you got, this is great, this is great. So how do you test the membership thing? I said, I'll throw it in free for a month. People can find, does this work for them? Does this motivate them? Does this answer some hunger inside them for something? So I threw that in. And that's the thing about one thing going to another. And it's also, I like things that give to people, like this Truth Summit gives to you. And my hope is also that the Truth Tellers Club will give massively to people. By the way, there's one more thing that's being given, and that's in a couple of days. There's going to be a panel. You've liked listening to the people in the summit. Well, what about meeting them and hearing, taking stock and moving forward? And I'm going to see, I have so many other things that I would like to make part of the Truth Tellers Club, in fact. And so I'll just give you a little tiny thing of what I want to have part of the Truth Tellers Club. There's someone who really impressed me a lot, Lawrence Gonzalez, 12 Rules for Survival. And that is, he explored a lot of people who had survived really extreme situations. And he found they tended to follow these 12 rules. Or in fact, the rules came from checking how did they survive. Right here, I'm only going to give you one of the 12 rules. And it is a rule, by the way, that is violated by all the people who do not listen, who are not truth seers, truth tellers. Rule number 1 for survival in an extreme situation: perceive and believe. To be into truth telling, the first thing before you can tell something is you need to see it, you need to recognize it, you need to be aware of it. You need to maybe check it out, test it, evaluate it. And from that, you come to believe. What do people who are not among the truth tellers do? The process is really different. It's listen to the media. Listen or watch and believe what you're told. And in fact, perceptions tend not to go in. You may want to give a fact to one of these people. It's most facts, it's very hard to get them in. You've got to be really careful. Sometimes you can, and sometimes it can work, but so often there's an incredible barrier. So one thing, if you are here, it means chances are that you follow rule number 1, but it's not an absolute rule. I said I started seeing in 2006. It was around one issue. I was not perceiving around climate. I was not perceiving around ever so much. And by the way, there's somebody I know who was perceiving around so much. And so a few months into this pandemic, I contacted her and found she had bought this hook, line, and sinker. I tried to reach her. She cut off from me. And so being partially awake, so perception isn't an all or nothing thing. We can still get snared. We can still get snagged. So I hope that the Truth Tellers Club would be some way to increase perception more, and also increase more our following all 12 of the rules. And that brings us rather quickly to, what do I want from you? And it goes with my attitude to life. If it resonates with you to get the interview series, if it's right for you, if your inside voice says, get it, yay, get it. Of course I'd want it. If your inside voice says, try the Truth Summit, of course I want you to do that. But what if your inside voice says, I'm not interested in that Truth Summit and owning it. I want you to go with your inside voice. And if it says, I'm not interested in that Truth Tellers thing, I want you to go with your inside voice. We get pushed around so much in the society. Wear a mask, get yourself shot, on and on. Believe this climate hysteria, believe there is no voting fraud. I really would like free breathing. So what I would like from you, what I want from you, is that you listen to yourself and go, what is right for you? And that is because the world that I want, the world is a garden. The world is, the Truth Tellers wanted, is a world where we perceive, but not because somebody is shoving it in our faces, you've got to see this, but because using our senses, it's just natural we see it. And that is what I'm going to end with. I want a gift of freedom, of doing what is right for you. And I want the Truth Tellers Club also to be something where people can breathe freely and maybe learn more and go further, not by being shoved around, but by being given encouragement to listen to the many things that are possible for them, which is to say, for you. And with that, I'm going to see if there's a way of stopping the recording.